The next VLGA-LGIU Global Executive Live panel is on Tuesday the 22nd of July, exploring the topic of building the local economy. It will be held online from 5:30pm to 7pm, with panellists including Dr. Angela Jackson from the Australian Productivity Commission, David Marlowe, Chief Executive of Third Life Economics, and Merrin Tinkler, Manager Economy and Culture at Mount Alexander Shire Council. They'll explore the role of local government in economic growth, ways to ensure local economic planning remains resilient to economic changes, and what the shared challenges and opportunities are for local economic performance. Global panels are free for VLGA members and alumni and $60 for non-members. Visit the VLGA website to register now. Victorian Government accused of holding back crucial infrastructure funding. A surprise bank branch closure angers a rural council. The council introduces body-worn cameras, innovated council waste management and animal control initiatives, the massive investment from councils in tackling climate change, and a call for more government assistance. Sydney Council enters a controversial stadium debate, a popular New Year's Eve fireworks show under threat, and a council merger under consideration in Western Australia. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy, back with more of the latest local government news from across Australia and beyond. Also today, the exciting new Innovation Awards for Victorian councils. I'll speak with the MAV's Chief Innovator in Residence, Bonnie Shaw, later in the podcast. The Local Government News Roundup is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. The Herald Sun has reported on mounting concerns over unspent infrastructure funds in Melbourne's rapidly growing outer suburbs. It claims the state government is currently holding more than $230 million in developer contributions that local councils say is desperately needed for critical infrastructure. Melbourne's western suburbs are being particularly disadvantaged, contributing significantly to the infrastructure levy, but seeing just over half of those funds returned to local projects. Melton Mayor Steve Abushi is calling for greater transparency and guaranteed funding commitments, while the Property Council is concerned about families moving into new developments without essential services. The opposition has accused the government of stockpiling the funds to offset budget pressures. A government spokesperson told the Herald Sun the quoted figures were outdated without providing the new numbers. Wellington Shire Council is angered by Bendigo Bank's decision to close its Yarram branch in September, announced without community consultation. Councillor Gary Stevens, a resident of Yarram, said closure would significantly impact elderly residents, small businesses and community organisations that rely on face-to-face banking services. He said they'll be forced to travel over 60 kilometres to the nearest branch. The council is calling on the bank to reconsider its decision, which comes as Yarram is poised for growth through a range of economic and workforce opportunities from renewable energy projects. Buloke Shire Council representatives have met with transmission company Victoria regarding the VNI West transmission project, expressing disappointment at the lack of transparency and substantive information provided during the meeting. The council is concerned about a proposed amendment to energy infrastructure legislation that would consolidate planning under VicGrid and potentially impact landowners. It has highlighted ongoing issues with communication and engagement from project proponents and government agencies, noting that the proposed amendment was not mentioned during a recent visit from Energy and Resources Minister Lily D'Ambrosio. Frankston City Council has adopted a $300 million budget that focuses on supporting long-term growth and delivering vital infrastructure. It includes a $1.7 million local support package to help residents with cost of living pressures and a $73 million capital works program featuring the $60 million redevelopment of Frankston Stadium. A new differential rate for vacant land in the city centre has been introduced to discourage land banking and encourage development. Average increases for residential and commercial ratepayers have been limited to 2.24% and 1.12%, respectively. A notable initiative is an Australian-first 3-month pilot in partnership with Accessible Beaches Australia, inspired by a model in Nice, France, that will deliver enhanced opportunities for people with mobility-related disabilities to experience Frankston's foreshore. Pyrenees Shire Council is implementing body-worn cameras for community safety and amenity officers to enhance safety and transparency following incidents of antisocial behaviour towards them. CEO Jim Nolan said the safety of the council's officers is paramount, and body-worn cameras have been proven as a deterrent against antisocial behaviour. The cameras will only be activated when necessary during public interactions, with footage stored according to relevant guidelines and accessible through Freedom of Information requests. Mornington Peninsula Shire Council has endorsed a new visitor economy partnership to strengthen the region's tourism industry, which attracted 7.9 million visitors and contributed $1.8 billion to the local economy last year. The partnership, supported by a $200,000 annual investment from the council, will serve as an official voice for tourism in the region and play a key role in setting strategic direction and securing state funding. Yarra City Council is implementing a user pays model for bank fees and charges on parking and leisure centre services starting July 1st, which will save the council nearly $1 million annually. Mayor Stephen Jolly said the change creates a fairer system where users rather than ratepayers bear the costs, aligning with standard business practices. Some innovations of note. The City of Whittlesea has launched a new program offering free desexing, microchipping and registration for stray cats being cared for by residents. It's hoped the program will help to reduce the stray cat population while supporting community members who provide food and shelter to the animals. Participants have the option to adopt the cat or allow it to be rehomed through the council's Watchering Animal facility. And Port Phillip City Council has launched a trial installing metal baskets on public litter bins to make it easier for recyclers to collect eligible containers for Victoria's Container Deposit Scheme. It's hoped the new baskets will help to prevent damage to bins while encouraging recycling. The initiative has been funded in partnership with CDS Vic. The trial will be evaluated in 9 months and the results potentially shared with other councils. More councils are releasing their community satisfaction survey results. Here's just a few. Surf Coast Shire's results have returned a score higher than the statewide average and similar large rural councils. Its overall performance score of 57 is the same as last year and 7 points higher than the large rural group's average. Stonnington City Council has ranked above the state average on most service areas, especially in community facilities, parks and public spaces. Its overall performance score of 60 is slightly down, 2 points behind the metropolitan average, with planning, traffic and parking noted as areas for improvement. And Knox City Council has scored a slightly lower overall performance than last year, but is tracking above its longer-term average. Best performing areas were library services, youth services, sports ovals and waste management. Road maintenance and repairs was the main issue highlighted for improvement. Jane Cowell is stepping down as CEO of Yarra Plenty Regional Library after 7 years. Ms Cowell has been instrumental in expanding digital services and fostering collaborative partnerships during her time in the role, helping make YPRL one of Australia's most progressive library services, according to Chair and Nillumbik Shire Councillor Grant Brooker. Nillumbik is one of 3 member councils along with Banyule and Whittlesea. Ms Cowell will finish up in October and the board will soon commence a process to appoint a new CEO. More news from Victorian councils. The City of Greater Geelong is introducing free 2-hour parking in all on-street 2P spaces on weekdays in central Geelong. The new initiative starts July 14, aiming to support local businesses and revitalise the city centre. The City of Casey has launched an interactive open data exchange webpage to provide transparent access to council decisions, voting records and meeting information. It says the initiative will foster stronger community engagement and accountability in local governance. Monash Council has revealed updated designs for a new civic precinct in Glen Waverley to feature a modern library, civic hall, community spaces, parking and council offices. The community can provide feedback on the designs before July 27 and attend a drop-in session at Glen Waverley Library on July 8. And Maroondah City Council has received $1 million in Victorian Government funding for a new state-of-the-art library in Croydon, which will be part of the cultural hub in the Croydon Community Wellbeing Precinct. The project is expected to commence construction in September and be completed by 2027. You're listening to the Local Government News Roundup. It's Monday the 30th of June. This is edition number 470, brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, partnering with LGIU on another Global Executive Live panel on the role of councils in fostering local economic growth. That's coming up on the 22nd of July. Details on the VLGA website. And support for the podcast comes from Symphony 3, for which we're very grateful, helping you provide simple, connected customer experiences with their Smart Glue development. Find out more at symphony3.com. In a groundbreaking report released at last week's National General Assembly in Canberra, Australia's local councils are taking climate change into their own hands, with plans to invest more than $2 billion over the next 5 years to protect communities from the changing climate. The Australian Local Government Association's report, titled Adapting Together, reveals the investments could save communities up to $4.7 billion by 2030. ALGA President Mayor Matt Burnett said councils are leading the way in preparing for and managing these ever-increasing impacts, including from natural disasters. ALGA is calling on the government to provide a new $400 million climate adaptation fund distributed to all of Australia's councils each year. To our New South Wales report now, and a battle over Allianz Stadium has intensified, with the City of Sydney Council unanimously backing South Sydney Rapidos in their bid to return to Moore Park, according to the Daily Telegraph. Lord Mayor Clover Moore will now formally contact Premier Chris Minns and Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to express the council's support for the Rapidos relocation. Councillor Ollie Arkins, who proposed the motion, claims the precinct cannot thrive on 10 home games from the eastern suburbs Roosters alone, and that the Rapidos return would bring substantial economic benefits to local businesses. Despite the state government recently rejecting South's proposal, the club has rallied supporters with an online petition that has already gathered 15,000 signatures. Kiama's popular New Year's Eve fireworks display is under threat unless the council can obtain significant sponsorship funding. The annual Sky Show, which attracts up to 20,000 visitors to the coastal town, has been running for more than a decade, with the council previously investing around $80,000 annually. But Kiama Mayor Cameron McDonald said the new decision is part of the council's focus on achieving financial sustainability by 2026-27. It's launched a call for corporate sponsors, with expressions of interest being taken until the 13th of July. The decision is not without controversy, with Councillor Yasmin Tatrai telling the Bugle that she feels hoodwinked by the decision to overlook what she describes as the most important night of the year for the community. But Councillor Mike Keynes remains optimistic, saying he can't believe there isn't a solution to keep the tradition alive. Edward River Council is advocating for a new Deniliquin hospital to reduce pressure on larger regional facilities like Albury Hospital, while providing enhanced healthcare services to the southern Riverina region. Mayor Ashley Hall said the issue will be highlighted to the New South Wales Government and personnel involved in providing health services across the state. The council has adopted a position statement calling for a new hospital as part of a broader health precinct to address community concerns, attract healthcare professionals and improve service delivery in an area that has experienced limited healthcare investment for decades. Blue Mountains Council has decided to end its sister city relationship with Sanda, Japan, after more than 3 decades, according to a report in the Blue Mountains Gazette. Council CEO Rosemary Dillon recommended the discontinuation of the arrangement due to the availability of alternative channels for cultural exchange and global connection. Activities like the Japanese Friendship Garden maintenance and school artwork exchanges are likely to continue. Cumberland City Council has constructed Australia's first green cool car park at Holroyd Gardens in Marylands, featuring a vine-covered trellis structure that reduces surface temperatures by up to 50% and improves thermal comfort by 10 degrees. The innovative urban cooling solution addresses extreme heat while providing additional benefits such as UV protection for vehicles and extended asphalt lifespan. It will potentially serve as a model for the 99% of Western Sydney's currently unshaded car parks. And Liverpool City Council has become the first in Australia to utilise a drone-powered cleaning technology on a public building. Australian company Wash Drones has cleaned the exterior of the Liverpool City Library using advanced surface tracking technology. The drone efficiently navigated the building's unique round design, removing the need for scaffolding, rope access or elevated work platforms. The council says its use of technology is making things better by improving service, increasing safety and reducing long-term costs. You can see the technology in action from the link in this episode's transcript. More news from New South Wales councils. Glen Innes Severn Council has welcomed confirmation from the state government of $50 million funding for the Glen Innes Hospital upgrade as part of the state budget. Mayor Margot Davis said the news was reassurance for the community and that the council would continue to advocate for additional funding needed to deliver the full master plan. Griffith City Council has warned residents of $2,000 fines for water meter tampering or theft. Such actions constitute criminal water theft and pose safety and public health risks, says Mayor Doug Curran, who highlighted it affects the entire community financially and stresses the water network. He's encouraged residents to report suspicious activity. And Parkshire has been named the Outstanding Rural and Remote Council at the National Awards for Local Government for its innovative fleet management system built in-house using Technology One. The award-winning project has transformed the council's approach to managing its $18 million fleet through real-time data integration, predictive maintenance and GPS telematics, resulting in improved safety, efficiency and cost savings. Some news from around the rest of the country. In Queensland, tensions have flared at a Toowoomba Regional Council meeting last week as Deputy Mayor Rebecca Von Hoff condemned what she called a damn disgrace, a 7-month delay in developing environmental protections for the region. The Toowoomba Chronicle reported on a fiery council meeting in which Dr Von Hoff secured enough votes to continue work on managing significant vegetation. The motion passed 6-4 and will see the findings incorporated into the council's new planning scheme, which is set to replace the current 13-year-old document. Sunshine Coast Council has appointed a brand new executive leadership team and streamlined its structure from 6 to 5 departments under new CEO John Baker. It follows an extensive recruitment process that attracted over 500 applicants. The 4 new directors, Deborah Robinson, Jodie Fielding, Jane Want and Scott Whitaker, will join John Baker and CFO Keith Parsons on the 28th of July as part of a transformation aimed at better serving community priorities. Outgoing directors Bill Hadrill and Greg Laverty will conclude their roles this week. And Rockhampton Regional Council will honour the late former councillor Neil Fisher OAM with a new memorial and walking track named in his honour at Mount Archer. Mr Fisher passed away last July after dedicating over 20 years to serving the Rockhampton region and was a key figure behind the mountain's development. Circular Head Council in Tasmania is disappointed with the Federal Environment Minister's decision to defer environmental approval for the $3 billion Robbins Island wind farm project until the end of August. General Manager Andrew Wardlaw said the 900-megawatt renewable energy facility, which would create approximately 400 jobs during construction and power around 250,000 homes, is crucial for the region's goals of economic resilience and environmental sustainability. He said the repeated deferrals are deeply concerning and is urging the federal government to prioritise its assessment of the project. South Australia's City of Prospect Council has formally endorsed the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct Master Plan, which aims to transform Prospect Oval and surrounding areas into a vibrant hub for health, wellness, fitness and sport. The comprehensive plan addresses long-standing issues like buried waste and non-accessible facilities while creating new community assets, with implementation details to be developed through continued community engagement over the next 12 to 18 months. Onkaparinga City Council has developed a new 4-year affordable housing strategy, which outlines 28 specific actions aimed at increasing housing diversity and affordability through planning, partnerships and advocacy. The strategy was unanimously endorsed by the Council and recognises that addressing the housing crisis requires collaboration between all levels of government, developers, community housing providers and local residents. And across to Western Australia, where the local government minister Hannah Beasley has suggested a merger between the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder and Shire of Coolgardie councils, located about 600 kilometres east of Perth. Speaking in State Parliament on Thursday, Minister Beasley described the Shire of Coolgardie as a financial mess, suffering from shocking mismanagement and poor governance. ABC News reported the Shire is currently facing a $6.5 million budget deficit after a failed attempt to increase mining rates by 97%. The Minister has arranged meetings with representatives from both councils to discuss what she terms a boundary adjustment rather than a full amalgamation. Meanwhile, the Shire of Coolgardie has decided to put its controversial Blue Bush Village mining camp on the market. The accommodation facility, which opened in late 2022, saw costs balloon from an initial $9 million to more than $24.5 million, and it suffered from lower than expected occupancy rates. And Perth Council leaders are demanding more financial support after the Western Australian government abandoned its efforts to eradicate the destructive shot-hole borer beetle. The invasive pest has already claimed nearly 5,000 trees across Perth's suburbs. Perth Now reported that the state government last week conceded defeat in its eradication campaign, pivoting to what they're calling a management strategy instead. The shift has sparked significant backlash from local governments who claim they've been blindsided by the decision. Subiaco Mayor David McMullen was among those expressing disappointment, questioning whether the government could or should have done more while eradication was still possible. Still to come, a Roundup Extra. I'm joined by Bonnie Shaw shortly, the Chief Innovator in Residence at the Municipal Association of Victoria, to talk about some exciting new innovation awards for Victorian councils. But first, a look at some stories making news overseas. In the UK, experts are warning that local government reorganisation could see the loss of 90% of councillors, according to localgov.co.uk. In a Localis essay, Professors Colin Copus and Steve Leach say councillor numbers could fall from around 12,000 to 1,200, potentially threatening local democracy, they say. They argue a planned reorganisation will increase workloads for remaining councillors, reduce public trust, lower electoral turnout and diminish community identity by creating meaningless conglomerates that make little sense as units of local government. The UK government has announced that even if Plymouth votes for a directly elected mayor in the July 17 referendum, no mayoral election will take place until 2027. That would give the Parliament time to pass legislation potentially scrapping the role entirely. Plymouth Live has reported on the controversy surrounding the announcement, with pro-mayor campaigner Angus Forbes accusing the government of betraying democracy. Officials maintain the postponement will provide clarity and prevent resources being spent on governance changes that may be reversed. Preston City Council in Lancashire has established a friendship agreement with Hebron, a Palestinian city in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. The Lancashire Times reported that the new partnership is aimed at creating practical and cultural links between the two cities and is being seen as a humanitarian gesture. Some councillors have expressed concerns about the council potentially taking sides in the Middle East conflict, describing it as a problematic proposition. To Texas, where LGBTQ+ advocates have staged a rainbow sit-in protest at a Lubbock City Council meeting. They're seeking pride recognition after the council opted against approval for the third consecutive year. USA Today reported that the council's previous opposition has significantly impacted the LGBTQ+ community, with advocates stressing that public recognition would help community members feel seen in a city that often silences their voices. In Canada, the Edmonton City Council has decided to extend a controversial downtown revitalisation levy to 2044, according to CBC News. The levy is used to fund development projects, including a proposed event park near Rogers Place, despite concerns from some citizens about the use of taxpayer money. The 9-4 vote followed a 2-day public hearing where supporters argued for downtown vitality, while opponents questioned whether the benefits were being distributed equitably across the community. Here's a story from the Maldives. The mayor and deputy mayor of Thinadu City have been suspended for 3 months and 1 month respectively, following an LGA investigation into 19 issues, including misuse of powers and resources. The entire city council received penalties, with 4 council members receiving warnings and the president of the Women's Development Committee instructed to return allowances taken against regulations. The decision followed an inquiry by the local government authority into complaints submitted to it, according to a report from the Raj News website. And in New Zealand, 8 Wellington region mayors have approved a 10-year emergency management strategy to strengthen communities' ability to manage severe storms and other emergency events, which have increased by 330% over the past decade. Wellington Scoop reported that the new strategy aims to build resilient communities through a whole-of-society approach, while addressing challenges like climate change impact, ageing infrastructure and insufficient preparedness. Pleased to have with me on the program now Bonnie Shaw, who's the Chief Innovator in Residence at the MAV. Hello, Bonnie. Nice to have you here.
Hi, Chris. It's a pleasure.
You've been working on this MAV Lab concept at the MAV, and you've recently launched some innovation awards, which I want to talk about in just a moment. But perhaps for the uninitiated, can you explain what MAV Lab is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So as part of our strategic plan at the MAV, we really wanted to identify opportunities to be able to step up and support councils in the most efficient and impactful ways. And acknowledging that we're moving into some pretty interesting times with rapidly evolving technologies, climate, economies, communities. All of our communities and our councils are facing some pretty complex challenges. And so the lab is really set up in a way to keep an eye a little bit further into the future. The most councils are often in that kind of really responsive day-to-day work, serving their communities. And our role at the lab is to try and get a bit of a view of what's coming a little bit further down the track, and to help councils think about and start to prepare for some of those big challenges.
With, I assume, a big focus, Bonnie, on the role that technology and things like generative AI are playing in that space.
Absolutely. And we've actually just, we're in the process of wrapping up a big piece of work focused on how councils are using AI at the moment. We were funded by the National Housing Task Force for a portfolio of 4 projects last year to look at how to support councils in their efforts to hit some of those big numbers around housing provision. And one of the projects in that portfolio was looking at the use of artificial intelligence, specifically in the statutory planning process.
Right.
And we've undertaken a design and research project over the last 6 months to look at where AI and automation, both aspects, may play a role in improving service and efficiency in the statutory planning process. We spoke with 70% of Victorian councils and over 250 staff across procurement, IT and planning teams. And we have a pretty comprehensive piece of work that's about to be released in the coming weeks, hopefully,
right.
Along with some initiatives related to procurement, training, and evaluation, which we're pretty excited about.
We'll look forward to hearing more about that. Is MAVLab an Australian first? Is this Victoria leading the way in this sense?
That's a great question. So local governments and public sector innovation labs have been around for a while. They've come in a few waves. I was involved in a couple. Probably the most kind of high profile in Australia was the City of Melbourne Smart Cities team, which housed their City Lab team, which is still going. And that kind of kicked off back in about 2015, 2014. But the approach that we're taking with MAV Lab, I think, is maybe a little unique because of the role that MAV plays in the sector as the legislated peak body, as this institution that plays a really critical role in convening and supporting collaboration across councils. One of the roles that we see the lab playing that we've actively designed for is to support collaboration across councils. When you look at the combined skills and assets and resources across all 79 councils, there is a real abundance in that network, and a big part of our focus, and certainly the first activity that we did, was to reach out to everyone working in Victorian councils to see if they would come and collaborate with us.
Right. Bonnie, you've talked a little bit about some previous work you've done in this space, but how do you come to a role like this? Are you a geek? What's your background?
Proudly, of course.
Yeah.
I am a geek. I am a nerd. I have a pretty varied career background. I came to MAV Lab from running a startup, a GeoAI startup focused on communicating insights derived from geolocation data, geodata. And so I do have a relatively deep background in tech. But I'm trained as a landscape architect and urban designer.
Wow.
I've spent a bunch of time in game design. I've been involved in several innovation labs in federal government, local government, and the corporate sector. And also spent a bunch of time in nonprofits as well, particularly around youth engagement with the Foundation for Young Australians. But it's been a pretty varied career, and I like to describe it as a bowerbird career where I have collected all sorts of experiences from a really diverse variety of organizations and sectors, and bring them to bear on really complicated challenges.
Yeah. That's a fascinating background, and I'm getting the sense that you're one of those people you could ask what you're going to be doing 5 years from now, and you probably don't even know. It could be anything.
I mean, I don't think I've ever really known, but interesting opportunities seem to find me, and I sort of throw myself at them with a lot of passion and dedication. And this opportunity right now with the MAV, with the leadership of our board and our executive team, is pretty special. There's a lot of momentum in the sector, and I get to come in contact every day with amazing people in local government who are doing incredible work, which is just a joy.
So tell me about the MAV Lab Innovation Awards. What are you trying to achieve with these?
Directly following on from that comment, I think a big part of what we're trying to do is showcase the incredible work that's happening in local government. I think we all feel the tension at play in our communities and in our environment, in our kind of political systems at the moment. The impact of rapidly changing technologies and climate and economy is causing a lot of pressure. And so a big part of what we're trying to do here is showcase and highlight the great work that's already underway to serve our communities and improve people's daily lives. And we're doing that with the awards as a way of both showcasing that incredible work, but then also finding the really great stories that we can help to share and amplify through our work at the MAV. And then hopefully find some great projects and programs of work that we may be able to document and help replicate. So it's always much easier to copy and replicate than to start from scratch.
Yes.
And so if we can find some really great work that may have applications in other places, hopefully we can help to move that a little faster.
I think that's a terrific aim indeed. And I notice when announcing the awards, you talked about acknowledging those quiet reinventions as well as the big, bold transformations, which I think is important. And no doubt you've thought about your 16 categories as a way to bring out all of those types of innovations.
Yeah, that is a very transparent plan. And all of the categories also relate quite clearly back to our strategic plan as well. So we're trying to be very thoughtful about where we focus. My favorite award is, actually I have several, but I do love the Futures Maintenance Award. And that one is attempting to seek out and find innovation that's happening around asset maintenance, which isn't an area that typically gets much of a spotlight shined on it.
No, it's not regarded as the most sexy of subjects, is it?
No, but once you go digging around, it's often... there's often some really exciting stuff happening in spaces like that don't often get a lot of recognition. And so we're not just looking for the kind of big, bold, customer-facing activities that you might often see in programs like this, but we're trying to find some of those other things that are happening in teams that maybe don't get a lot of attention for their great work, and also the things that sort of just quietly make change sort of under the hood.
And is it going to recognise not only those, I guess something about those bigger councils with resources to throw at solving these problems, but also those smaller councils that need to band together and find really creative ways of bringing about change? Your award categories cover that spread as well, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. We have. I'm looking at a list right now. We have an award, the Stronger Together Award for Council Collaboration, so specifically calling out collaboration. But we also in the submission form when you enter the awards, we kind of ask you to size up your context. So we size up the problem, we size up the context that you're working in. So, we know it's pretty hard to compete dollar for dollar on some of the bigger councils compared to some of the smaller councils. But we're less interested in the sort of the big ticket items and more on how these initiatives are addressing critical challenges in community or in operations, and what their impacts are within their specific context. Because often some of those bigger projects can't be replicated because you do need sizable budgets or larger teams. But when you're looking at smaller interventions that we can sort of tell the stories about how they happen, those are things that other people may be able to learn from and replicate in their own daily work.
So the awards are open now. I think people have got till the end of July to get those in. What realistically, first time around, what sort of a response are you expecting to get from the sector?
Well, I'm really hopeful that we get quite a number of applications for each award. There are 16 categories across a range of projects, teams, and individuals. And we've also done that quite specifically to try and highlight really great interventions and outcomes, the sort of team and organizational environment that you need in place to deliver this kind of work. And then we really want to showcase a couple of the leaders that are sort of creating the spaces to make this work happen. So I'm hopeful that we get a lot of people that want to be part of it. Part of what we're offering as well in the our sort of prizing package is this ability to tell these stories. And so, like I said, it's a really big focus for us to be able to communicate what's happening with this work. And so we anticipate using some great photography, hopefully some film, to bring these stories to life. And I think for a lot of organizations, having the ability to share their work with a wider audience is really attractive. And so hopefully that's a little bit more of an incentive for people to get involved as well.
Absolutely. I think the whole thing's very exciting. So for those listening who might want to find out more and perhaps start brushing up their application for an award, where do we go, Bonnie?
If you head to the MAV website, there's under the MAV Lab. So if you go to mav.asn.au/MAV Lab, you'll be able to find the link to submit an application for any of the 16 categories. We're also hosting at least one coaching session that'll be with myself and Gemma Baxter, who is leading a bunch of the awards program. And we'll be available to answer any questions, give a bit of an overview, talk about the judging criteria, and then what happens next. That will be recorded, so if you can't make that, it'll be available online. Or just track us down, send us an email. You can reach us on LinkedIn. We're pretty available.
Terrific. And the announcement of the awards at some stage will be part of a special event, I'm imagining?
Correct. There'll be an awards event on the 8th of October. We'll have a venue booked in the city in Melbourne. We're in the planning phases of that at the moment, and I guarantee it will be a good time for all.
Excellent. All right, looking forward to seeing how all that ends up first time around, the MAVLab Innovation Awards. Bonnie, thank you so much for your time to tell us about that, and best of luck with the project.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, and I hope we get to see and learn a lot about the amazing work that's happening in councils.
My guest today has been Bonnie Shaw, the Chief Innovator in Residence at the MAV. That's the latest from the Local Government News Roundup, edition number 470, recorded on the morning of Monday the 30th of June 2025, and brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. More information, including story links and a transcript for this episode, can be found at lgnewsroundup.com. The Roundup is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I'll be back with more local government news for you on Wednesday. Until then, thanks for listening and bye for now. Local government teams shouldn't have to waste time on manual data entry into outdated systems. With Symphony 3 Smart Glue, you don't have to. You can automate repetitive tasks, eliminate double handling, and connect legacy systems with ease. Smart Glue helps councils streamline operations, reduce errors, and deliver better services without replacing your existing systems. It's time to build smarter, more connected local governments. Learn more at www.symphony3.com. Symphony 3, supporters of the Local Government News Roundup.